So my name is George Stancliffe. I'm the author of Speed Reading for Kids, and I've got Earl here. And Earl, tell me a little bit about yourself. I guess the reason we're doing the interview is because you've taught your daughter to speed read. Can you tell me a little bit about the background of that, or um, anything that you'd like to say to start off with?
Yeah, I can say it was like when I was 19 or 20 or maybe 21, I think it was. A guy I met, he told me about speed reading. I had never heard about it before, but I got very curious because it sounded like whoa, it sounded like a superpower. So
Hmm.
I dug into Amazon and I found some books about it, and there I started practicing speed reading. And that year I had a lot to do at school, so I thought, okay, I will try to teach myself speed reading so I can easily read through the curriculum.
Hmm.
And very serious, that stuff works. It's like it sounds like magic in the start, but when you just get into it, it's just like a natural skill, really. So I taught myself to speed read, but then I didn't. After that year, I didn't continue using it. So then I start forgetting it. I didn't use it long enough,
Right.
and, and therefore I thought, like, okay, when my daughter was in her mother's stomach, I thought to myself, okay, this is one of the skills I really want to teach my daughter.
Hmm.
So I ordered a book when she was, just 1 year old.
Okay.
And I thought, and I think in the book you said like you should ideally start teaching kids when they're around 8, I think.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Was that the Speed Reading for Kids book?
Yeah, that was the speed reading for kids book. Yeah. So
Okay.
I started teaching her from 8 years old.
Okay. Yeah, the methods in the Speed Reading for Kids book are designed for kids that already know how to read and they read fairly well. Maybe not great, but good enough, maybe third grade level, so they can at least independently read very simple chapter books. If they can do that, they can learn how to speed read. It's not designed for teaching 1 year olds, 2 year olds, 3 year olds how to speed read. That can be done. It just takes other methods. Um, so yeah, okay, that's interesting. So how did you know when your daughter was ready to speed read? Aside from just the age 8, was there some things that kind of gave you an idea? Well, this is a good time to try.
Well, I had waited for. I had honestly waited since she was 1 year old. But it was like we just started like with simple lights of writing, and we started with simple kids books.
Hmm.
And she like very early on, she just told me like, Dad, she said, I can read all the words on the entire page in a split of a second. Just
Hmm.
like, and at that time, that was like, wow, that was like too magical. I couldn't take her serious, that when she said that. So
It
yeah,
sounded too
maybe I
good
got a
to be
little,
true.
yeah, it really sounded too good to be true. But then we started going on, and I signed her up for a book club, and she got this absolutely thick enough books, and then she speed read through those books. I mean, really fast, and she could tell me the whole story afterwards. That was one of the moments where I was just like, wow, okay, she
Hmm.
really got the hang of this.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so at the age of 8, she had no resistance. She just thought it was a cool idea and just went along with it and found that she could do it quite easily.
Yeah, it was, yeah, very naturally for her, very
Hmm.
early, and she's the kind of kid that's always into new things. That's always exciting. So it wasn't any problem. And we also started with the chocolate. If she could tell things I asked her from the book, she would earn a piece of chocolate.
Oh, okay. That's a very I found early on in teaching speed reading, if you got some kind of a reward system, it makes it more exciting. They like earning a candy or whatever. In my case, I used to own a vending business. This is many years ago, and I would have these, outdated candy bars or outdated bags of chips and stuff, and well, you just throw them away because you can't sell them. But if they're just freshly outdated, you can still give them away. And I'd bring some of those to class, say, hey, let's have a contest. Whoever does this, okay, dude, they would be motivated to do whatever. They wanted to win a prize. It was pretty exciting, and I was like giving away stuff I couldn't sell, but it was still just barely expired like the day before, so it was still good. So it was a
The
win-win for
kids,
me. The kids loved it, you know.
yeah, they feel victory.
And and once in a while, I remember one day early in this one class, there's a school teacher. She had me, or he had me teach 4 days per week for 4 weeks. And it was like the second day I said, hey, who practiced their speed reading yesterday? Because I told him you need to practice this 30 minutes, every single day for a few minutes a day. And two kids raised their hand. Oh, really? So I went, I grabbed some grandma's cookies, here you go, here you go. Oh, everyone was up. I said, okay, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Suddenly, that's bad manners, right? These kids are eating these cookies in front of everyone. But the next day, everybody was practicing. So it gets people started, making it fun, having prizes and things. So yeah, that really works. So how long from the time you started till the time that she was speed reading independently?
It went pretty fast, honestly, but you learn a lot about yourself as a teacher. When it's your own kid, you can be a little bit upset if they don't do what you're supposed to do. And
Right?
my experience was in speed reading, like, take it easy,
Mm-hmm.
be the good daddy no matter what, and just like, yeah, you're doing great, and just like encourage all the time.
Right.
That was something I missed in the start because I thought she on purpose didn't speed read.
Right.
So I got a little bit upset, but that was not a good idea to become upset because that could maybe be a little bit discouraging. I was my experience. So,
Yeah.
but to get the hang of it, that went pretty fast. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't say exactly in time how long because we had very. One week we did 5 trainings, 5 days every day for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Other weeks we did 3 times training.
Mm-hmm.
Then we did 4 times. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember now if it was a week, a month, or 2 months, or.
Okay.
But
So,
I just
well,
remember it was pretty quick. Yeah.
very quick. Yeah. And yeah, your observation that constant being positive is really helps. It very, that's my observation with other parents. They say the same thing. Positive reinforcement is the only way to go on speed reading. Because in the end, you want them loving speed reading and wanting to do it. If there's a negative reinforcement, it won't work. So,
Exactly. And I'm waiting for when she becomes 13 because I got very hooked on reading when I was around 13. Yeah, when I
mm-hmm,
was 13, teenager.
mm-hmm,
So I'm expecting that to happen with her also, that she get really hooked on reading.
right.
That will be next year.
Oh, okay. So she does a little bit of speed reading every day now, or is that just once in a while?
Right now it's just once in a while, but we had a parent meeting that was last year at school,
Right.
and that was pretty funny because he went through her progress in all the subjects. And
Mm-hmm.
then when he turned the sheet to see how the reading was going, the teacher was just like, "Okay, now we're going to see how your reading is going." He was just like, "Whoa!" It was like off the charts.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was very cool to see.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Mm.
that's good. So did you notice that as she learned to speed read, her reading skills, like the grade level would of her reading skills would accelerate, like going from third grade level to fourth grade level to fifth grade level? Did that seem to progress more quickly, or no? Or did you
Uh,
notice?
we haven't done any research directly on that, but I have noticed when we read in the bed before sleeping, for example,
Right.
she's very quick with the reading. When I read, and I take a break, she continues reading, and she with her eyes she follows exactly where I read from on the page. That
Yeah,
is like normal book pages with
right,
many lines.
right.
That I really noticed that she's very like she what do you call it? She focuses very good when we read the books.
Okay. So like if you're reading out loud to her, then she's real focused on where you are in the book.
Yeah, and if I say a word wrong, she corrects me.
Oh, very good. Yeah,
So
she's very alert to what's going on there.
mm,
So she still slow reads like anyone else, but she also speed reads at will whenever she wants to.
yeah, she said we've been at it now for almost 4 years. We've been doing practice many times a week
Hmm.
for almost 4 years. It's just a fun. It's just something we do,
Oh, it's just
and
like, okay. So you have like
just
special speed reading time together, for 3 or 4 times a week.
yeah, 3 times a week usually, three or
Okay.
sometimes four, sometimes five,
So
and
that keeps your speed reading skill alive and very strong, apparently. Yep.
yeah, because I have asked her that. Okay, now you know speed reading guaranteed for life. Do you think so? And she said, yeah, guaranteed. She knows it for life now. But
Okay.
she's like you mentioned earlier. She's nobody in her class does speed reading, so she's a little bit embarrassed.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to see, and she doesn't when they're reading at school. She doesn't want to finish 10 books when her classmates finish 5 pages.
Right. No, I get it. Uh, I would, that's one thing is a lot of times speed readers, uh, it could easily be something to become self-conscious about. I had one girl that I taught to speed read at the age of 10. And one day my wife had a meeting with her friends over, and someone came to show them about essential oils and whatever they talked about. I was just there just because my wife was hosting the meeting. But this one girl that I taught to speed read came with her mom, so she just wanted to be with her mom that night. But I noticed she found a book, she opened it up, and she would look one page, and she'd look at the other page, and then she'd go listen to the conversations, talk with people, and then after a while she'd kind of flip the page without looking at it, and then she'd go down and see one page and then another page. She's going about 3 seconds a page, but she wasn't flipping through the book. She was just doing it in a way that it didn't look like she was speed reading. You know what I mean? So she was
Yeah,
going
I get it.
three
Yeah.
seconds straight, 3 seconds here, 3 seconds here. Then she'd be talking with people. Someone would laugh. She'd laugh with them, continue the conversation. Then she'd flip the page when no one was looking. Then she'd do that page and that page. So I think what she was doing was speed reading in a way that nobody was noticing. And I guess it was a skill she kind of developed. And I asked her one day, after she'd been speed reader for several years, I said, do your friends know you speed read? She said, no. She told one or two of her friends, and that's all. But she hadn't told any of her friends, and they didn't know. And her school teacher, I said, do your school teachers know you can speed read? No. She hadn't told any of her school teachers. It's for some kids, that's just, they'd rather do that. Otherwise, they might get too much attention or someone might bully them. I don't know how often that happens, but I know of cases where that's happened. So uh, I could understand people being self-conscious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And some kids are shy, and some people are not shy, and everybody's different. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Uh, so she's been speed reading for 4 years, and she speed reads at least 3 or 4 times a week. Then would
Yeah,
that be accurate?
yeah, that is accurate. That is accurate.
So how long do you think would just a guesstimate for based on what you know, how long would it take her to read through like a 3 or 400 page book that would be on her grade level?
Really fast, really fast.
Oh, really? Like
Yeah, oh yeah,
5 minutes or 10 minutes?
probably below 10 minutes. Yeah,
Under 10 minutes? Oh, okay. Very
yeah,
good.
but then again, to put up a list of questions, she can tell the book, but we haven't tested, if she knows details.
Right.
Of course not, but she goes really fast through. that thick books.
Okay. And when she tells you about the book, then she pretty much knows pretty much what's going on, right?
Yeah, she tells me the story and what happened and everything. Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Well, it's the same. Yeah, that's how it is with kids that I've talked to. They can tell me about the book. If it's a book that I've read, then of course I know more about what's going on. Uh, I've had lots of parents uh, tell me the same thing. One lady, she had a daughter that was really good, but she was saying, I don't know if she's really getting it. But so she gave her a book to read, but it was a book she had already read millions of times when she was growing up. And her daughter read it, and she told her, well, what, tell me about the story. And she was telling her all the details. And because she had actually read this book a million times, it was her favorite book. She said, well, what about this? What about that? She had all the details right. And so it's not uncommon for people to understand it quite well like that. Um, Does she ever speed read ebooks, or is it just paper books?
Yeah, we subscribed on this app, which was a book club on app on the phone, and
Uh-huh.
then we did like you suggested. We enlarged the letters so it became like gigantic,
Right.
and then we flipped through the book. But she went back just to normal. She didn't need that. She went back just to normal size letters, and she went like
Okay.
real fast on the phone. She went really fast through the
Oh,
books.
wow, that's great. Yeah, the large size print is really good for some people to get started at speed reading. Uh, but as they get good at speed reading, they don't need the large size print so much. They can shrink that down, especially if they're capable of really fast speed reading. Uh, yeah, the small size print is just fine. So does she prefer any type of like paper book over ebooks, or are they pretty much equal as long as she's got one method is as good as the other?
Well, the kids today are really connected to their phone. It's like
Okay,
their third arm, you know. So
right.
so she says she likes it best on the phone, or she doesn't say that, but she signals that she likes it best on the phone. To say it like
Okay,
that, but
okay,
I think that's mostly just to be feel the phone in the hand and to feel if somebody calls, she can pick it up immediately.
right,
It's more like that. I think she's just as okay with a book on the phone as a normal book.
right. So do any of her friends know that she can speed read, or is she more private about that?
Now we had a visit of a friend, and then we did a speed reading session together with her and her friend.
Mm-hmm.
And but that was only that one time, so her friend never progressed.
Okay,
But I don't think I asked her if they have ever talked about that ever again, and I don't think they have ever even mentioned it to each other.
yeah,
But in theory, that friend, she knows that she's into reading
okay,
very fast. Hmm.
right. In most cases, other kids don't notice unless you make a show of it. That's been what I've noticed. And when I was growing up, I knew one kid that could speed read, but I didn't realize till I was an adult that guy's a speed reader. I had never heard of speed reading at the time, but he had read the entire encyclopedia, and who's going to do that unless they're a speed reader? So, and he insists, no, I read every single article in there. And I tried, I
Yeah,
thought, I went home, well, if he can do it, I can do it. I'm just as smart as him. But I quit on page one because I thought there's no way I'm going to get through this. This is so slow. I couldn't figure it out. Well, it was years later I found out about speed reading. So yeah, some people are speed reading, but other than that, if he hadn't told me he had read completely through the encyclopedia and he got it for Christmas just 4 months before, I wouldn't have noticed that he was a speed reader. So it's my belief that most people won't notice if you just keep it low key. They'll never figure it out unless you make it obvious somehow. Uh,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
One thing I'm interested in is what kind of educational opportunities do you think speed reading will open up for a child? If they learn to speed read well at a young age, what kind of educational opportunities might that open up?
I believe it's everything, honestly, because I mean they can like speed read through the curriculum the first day or the first week. So they got an extreme advantage. I mean, extreme.
Hmm.
I work like a teacher, so I know how the normal curriculum is. And if you can speed read, whew, you really got an advantage, big time.
Right. I've had growing up, I had some teachers. I don't know how many, but they made a point: do not read ahead in this textbook. And so they're very very vigilant about making sure you go along with everyone. And I've been thinking of a strategy to teach kids in order to make it so that they don't come into conflict with their school teachers, especially if they have one of these type of teachers. And I've had a few growing up uh, where you just teach them, okay, Johnny, uh, don't speed read the textbook. You can speed read anything else in the library, but because teachers get really hyper sensitive about you going way ahead in the book, uh, don't go ahead in the textbook. That way you can honestly tell a teacher, no, I haven't gone ahead in the textbook. And then that way the teacher will not feel threatened in any way. Do you think that might be a good strategy?
Yeah, you shouldn't mess up with the orders of the teacher that way. So yeah,
Yeah.
that
Uh,
could work. Yeah.
I remember even in first grade, my first grade teachers told us, do not go ahead in any of these in this book and don't read the next lesson or anything. And
Yeah.
from that point on, I knew, but and I know I had other teachers that were like that, and that might be one area where teachers might be very sensitive. So just I would say if I were to tell anyone out there, one thing to avoid conflict with your school teacher is just don't read ahead in the textbook. If you want to read 10 books in the library on the same subject, that's a different thing. But in the textbook, because I know teachers sometimes are very sensitive about that. Uh, that would probably be a good idea just to keep on good terms with the teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be absolutely be an idea.
How about in what ways does speed reading enhance skills like memory, quicker reflexes, decision making? Anything that you can think of? Any? It might be not be an area where you've thought of, but are there things you've noticed where speed reading helps in other ways?
Uh, not something I can put my finger on, but I remember myself when speed reading. I mean, you get like a super memory of the book,
Okay.
but and so I guess like reading in general improves your memory, your concentration, all of those
Hmm.
things. So speed reading absolutely will probably improve all of those things.
Right. So in your speed reading sessions that you have with your daughter, then your speed reading skill that you had in college and then it kind of faded away. Has that been coming back pretty good too?
No, I haven't trained it because I don't have the motivation for myself now.
Right.
Maybe I should do it, but maybe I will do it. But it's mostly about my daughter that she can speed read.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed that for young children, once they get good at speed reading, they become natural speed readers. And as long as they're still using it on a regular basis, that skill stays with them forever. It's possible that if they don't use it for months or years, then it could start to fade away. Just like if you spoke, if you moved to Russia or China or some other country and only spoke that language for a couple of years, you'd find that your native language would be starting to fade out a little bit. That happened to me once. I lived in South America for a couple of years, spoke only Spanish for a couple of years. And when I came back to North America, oh, my English was starting to get rusty. It was really the weirdest feeling in the world. I was having to think before I talked, and I didn't lose my language. It took after a couple of weeks that faded. It all came back, but it could happen to speed reading as well. If you go a long period of time without using it, you could get less and less good at speed reading. But of course now, but since your brain has been uh, geared and trained to be a good speed reader, it'll come back pretty quickly, just like your native language.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree on that. Yeah, and but I also think like you mentioned, somebody asked you a question about photographic memory
Right.
when you. And I believe there could be something to that, without any doubt. I have not checked it with my daughter, but I would like in the future to check up on that, because if there's any method of developing photographic memory, I would say that that's one of them. Yeah.
I think
Speed
there's
reading.
something to that because I've had students in my classes many times tell me that they find they remember things better after they've learned to speed read. And like in one case, I've heard this several times, is like in a math class, they have to do their math homework, they have to copy these problems from the book onto paper and then do these math problems. And people tell me they can look at the math problem and they could write the whole thing down, all 20 digits or 10 digits. Whereas before they learn how to speed read, they have to go write down 2 digits, write down 2 digits, write down two more digits, write down two more digits. And it was just took more time. After they learn how to speed read, they look, they can see the whole problem, they copy the whole problem down. And they're able to remember a whole lot more. It didn't matter that it was digits. Numbers are harder to remember for a lot of people because, like words, you can get, a word, all the letters in between. With digits, it's a little more difficult for a lot of people. So they gave that as an example, but uh, uh, speed reading does enhance memory, in my opinion, based on what I've seen and the feedback I've gotten from the students. So I think there is some research that should be done on that area. It's a good area of research.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the instructions in the speed reading for a kid book did you find those easy to follow?
Yeah, very easy to follow. But it was in the very start, because then I got the book in the post when she was 1 year old.
Right.
I got the book in the post and I thought, okay, now I'm gonna check out how you do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like it was a whole new world. It was something I had never seen before. So
Right.
so in the very start, it took, like when I had the tapping drills.
Right.
It's very easy to understand, but when it was new.
Right.
And then I was a little bit blown away. Like, am I doing this correct? Is this really the way it is?
Right.
But
Okay.
but when you just like understand that what it says there, that's exactly what it means. There's no other trick to it. Then it's very easy to understand it.
So if you had to do it over again, it would be really easy the second time.
Very easy, very easy.
Okay. So the initial thing is just when you're reading and understanding how it's done is one thing. When you actually do it and experience, wow, this is, this is how it really is. Uh, there's a learning curve there just from having to experience it. But once you experience it, you understand how it works. It's not really complicated because what's written in the book is actually pretty much how it goes, but experiencing it is just a whole new world. Something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly like that. Yeah. It's
Okay.
very, very logical and easy to understand.
Okay. Very good. So have you ever had any friends ask you about speed reading, or is that something that just doesn't come up that much?
I talked a lot about speed reading when I learned it in college. I talked a lot to friends about it, but I noticed that it's mostly people who are interested in reading, and everybody like got like curious to it and tried it out. I believe,
Mm-hmm.
but only the people who enjoyed reading, they got really into it. That
Right.
was my experience then. And
Okay.
I tried to bring it up for some friends a year ago, or a year or 2 years ago now, but they didn't have interest in hearing about it, because it was my mistake, because I described it in a way where it
Mm-hmm.
sounded very science fiction,
Right.
like very miracle like, and then they just shut down, no interest of hearing more. That was my mistake.
Right. You go up to someone and say, you can read a page a second. Then
Yeah,
then no one's going to believe it. Right. Okay.
exactly.
Where's the nearest UFO? Are you going to talk about these flying saucers now? No, I get it. I got to be careful. I've finally developed my own way of talking about it with people. But a lot of times, if I'm on the street or at church or whatever, I don't bring it up unless the situation develops where I can bring it up. Maybe I might say something, and if they respond positively, I can tell them a little bit more. Um, but yeah, it's a hard sell if people don't even know it exists sometimes. But I think.
It's really I had this friend that he's a very skeptical kind of guy. He's a great guy, but he's skeptical to things. And when I told him like this, that if you look at the sentence, "I go to school,"
Mhm.
if you're a grown up person, you don't have to read letter by letter or word by word. It
Right.
takes like fraction of a second, you see everything.
Yeah.
When I said that to him, then he got more like, at least he gained some interest into like, wow, maybe this is true.
Hmm.
But I don't know if he ever did anything more with that. But I noticed that, okay, then he got like that logic, like, oh yeah, there's something to this.
Yeah. So, what do you think about giving children, just as a general concept, giving children the opportunity to speed read at younger ages, even like I know some parents, they teach their children to read at the age of 2 or 3. Do you think speed reading would be appropriate for a child that's maybe 4 years old that already knows how to read?
I think it would revolutionize the entire school system because it would be, wow, that would be advantages in life for that kid, really.
Hmm.
And if you looked more into it, there is would probably be possible to make a system where that could be like a standard to make 4 year old kids speed read,
Hmm.
and they would have benefits in life, extreme benefits.
Yeah. No, I saw an interview. It was on the internet about 3 years ago. It's since vanished, where one lady actually taught her two daughters to speed read at the age of 3. I think it was accidental. She was just trying to get them to speed up because they're reading so slowly. You know how beginning readers are. The boy hit like that. And well, she reads, and they got to where they're reading independently, but she said, let's just speed them up a little bit. And she got what's that program you get? It's every Windows computer has. It's called uh, PowerPoint. It's a PowerPoint program. You don't have to have Windows. There's other programs that are just like it that other computers can have as well. But she had a PowerPoint program, and she took our daughter's very favorite book, and it had like 180 words in it, something like that. And she took one word per page. And so every page had another word, but it was a large size font. She says, okay, Sally, or whatever her name was, you know the story. It was her favorite story. She had it memorized. So I want you to read this story, but I'm going to make the words go fast. And you just see all the words and turn it into a movie in your mind. I'm just kind of reenacting in my own mind how that might have gone. But she showed them, she used a PowerPoint and she went, and her kids got the idea. Oh, you go fast like this. So they started looking at pages of, within a short time, they were seeing one page and the next page, and they're done. And I imagine they're probably going maybe 3 seconds a page, something like that. At the age of 3, by the age of 5, according to her, they were reading college level stuff, and they'd been tested and everything. It was just like, okay, because they were just speed reading, and how absorbent children's minds are at that age. So that's the only what I'd call research that's been done in that area that I know of. But I can see that it can have some serious benefits because the younger you learn, for example, a language, the better you are. You're not got this native fluency, and a child can learn 3 or 4 languages. I've got a friend. His daughter and his son. They both speak 3 languages fluently. Right. The mother was Chinese. Father was from Venezuela, and they're living in Canada. So they learn English, they learn Spanish, and they learn Chinese. And the dad speaks to his children only in English, only in Spanish. The mother speaks to the children only in Chinese. And then they live in the greater culture of Canada where everything's in English. So they're fluent in all three languages. They have no accent in any of the languages, and they're completely fluent. Well, how if you introduce another language called speed reading? They'll have a native fluency. As you're speed reading, you get the innuendos and everything when you're that good because the mind adapts to whatever skills you're learning at a young age. So you're extremely fluent. So that's how these 3-year-olds at this age learning to speed read gained such great competence. And at that, the video was done, and her oldest daughter was like 9 years old. She could go through an entire Reader's Digest magazine, including all the advertisements, into about 10 minutes. The Reader's Digest magazine, as I recall, I haven't looked at one lately, but they're like 110 pages or something like that. That's pretty significant, 10 minutes, and it's all small print. So in reading all the ads as well. So that's pretty impressive. And I presume these are just average kids with average intelligence. So there's a real.
I remember my grandma, she subscribed to Reader's Digest, and that's impressive. Yeah, that's very impressive.
Yeah. So I think there's some more research that needs to be done. And, there's so much possibility of great things to come with speed reading out there. So what strategies could a child employ? Let's say you have a child that has an ability to speed read. What kind of strategies do you think they could employ in preparing for a career? Would speed reading give them any advantages in preparing for maybe a career that they like? They say if someone's 8 or 10 or 15 years old and say, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a geologist, or whatever. What kind of...
Sure, because they could very easily get all the books they could muster on the subject, and they could speed read through everything, and then they would have then they would know if this is for me, and if it was the perfect fit, they would have big benefits starting that study or career, whatever it was. It's like I said, you got extreme benefits by knowing speed reading. It's really, really something.
Now, there's one thing I thought of. You speak English, but English is your second language. Your first primary language is Norwegian. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's correct. So
my daughter, she speaks 3 languages.
Oh, okay. Does she speed read in all three of them, or does she just speed read in one or two?
She only speed reads in one, in Norwegian.
Okay. Now, did this present any problems in teaching speed reading to your child, that the book was written in English and that she was, you're obviously going to be speed reading in Norwegian?
One more time. What did you say now?
Okay. So sometimes one question I get, because my book is published in English, people ask me, can I use speed reading for kids, even though it's published in English, to teach my child to read in Swahili or, Hebrew or Russian or whatever? To me, the answer is obvious, but you actually have experience in this with this one question. I just wanted to see what you might say on that.
Yeah, no, it's not a problem whatsoever. If you just can read the book yourself and understand the procedure, how to do it, it's extremely easy. Anybody can do it. It's really easy to teach.
Okay.
And you will start seeing benefits really fast because you do the tap drills and you do the timing of the sentences and the pages, and results come very easily, very fast.
Okay, very good. Are there any other things you'd like to say or talk about before we finish?
Just when it comes to speed reading, it's a skill that anybody will have extreme benefits in life of learning, especially kids, because they'll learn very easy and kids are just like sponges absorbing information. But also grown-ups and old people, whoever, can benefit from it. You learn how the best readers on the planet, you learn how they do it. how they
Right.
achieve the greatness they do.
Hmm.
And yeah, sky's the limit. Mm.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Earl. I've really enjoyed spending time with you and hearing your input on this. And I'm really grateful for you being willing to talk with me about this and do this interview.
And my pleasure. Thank you for contacting me about the interview. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Bye.